Welcome to Minds of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo. And with me today, I have Jonathan Girroir. He is a tech evangelist and a senior manager over at Cahsapp 3D. Jonathan, thank you for coming today.
Yeah, Luis, thanks for having me. It's great to be able to chat about technology with you.
Yes, I'm looking forward to our conversation. So, looking at your bio, you have been in tech for a long time. So, if you can just give a little bit about your background, how you got started in tech.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Trying not to feel old yet, but yeah, it's been over 20 years since I went to university for computer science with a focus on graphics. And from there, I worked at a startup where we deblurred images like you see in the movies, but in real life, but applied to stuff like astronomy and biology, looking through a microscope. But still, it was imaging and 3D imaging, and trying to remove noise and kind of reverse some of the effects that lenses introduce into graphics there. Um, from working at that company, I started at Techsoft 3D, and we focus primarily again on 3D imaging, but specifically in engineering and in construction, the building and construction market. So anything that is 3D, that's not games, entertainment, some medical, but not a ton of medical. We make toolkits, and software companies use those software toolkits, and they build software and for engineering, and then people use that software to build the world around us. So I've been with them for almost 14 years now, and started as a sales engineer, what we call consulting engineers, working with these different software companies to implement our toolkits. And now I work in the marketing team, but it's so technical. Like, what we do is our customers are technical, our technology is very specific. So um, I really enjoy working with our team, and then also our partners, to make sure that people understand what it is that we do and what you can accomplish with our software development tools.
Nice. So I'm curious, since you do a lot of 3D, are you into digital twins at all? Like, do you guys do that for your construction and your buildings?
Yeah, digital twin's been a buzzword for a while now, and absolutely. So we are providing the tools that allow a digital twin to be built. And that's really the case. Um, it's been the case for decades, where there's always been a digital representation of whatever's going to be built. Uh, even the early days of AutoCAD, right? That's what you were doing, is you were first designing something electronically, and then you're going to go off and build it. And at a very simple level, that's what a digital twin is.
Mhm.
However, it can get really complicated now, because the buildings that we're building are incredibly complicated. The planes, trains, and automobiles, same, right? You have hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are contributing to these projects. And so having that digital footprint that follows whatever product you're making is really valuable. And yeah, so TechSoft, we have a number of these components that can be reconfigured. They're like building blocks for software that can be reconfigured in any different way. And you kind of put software developers to also put their unique workflows on top of it. And they build the software that we're using today to build our buildings, or build our infrastructure, build our microchips. And that digital twin really is the digital representation of what's being built. And we can leverage that in a lot of different ways to make intelligent decisions. Hold on
Would you
just
mind?
a second.
Go ahead. Yep.
All right. So you're going to ask a question.
Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind, could you go into a little bit of the ways that you could leverage the data extracted from the digital twins, and like, what are some of the ways that maybe somebody who's not as technical could understand the use case for a digital twin?
Oh man, we can go in so many directions, because the data is really rich now. Like, it's more than just lines and planes that are being embedded into CAD files. but it's material definitions, it's manufacturing information. So if I'm going to build, uh, let's say, a disc brake assembly, good example. So it's like multiple parts brought together. They have to fit. They have to fit within certain tolerances. Those tolerances are in those files now, and how the parts in that assembly are associated with one another. That information is embedded within the file now. Why is that important? Well, if I'm a designer and I design this disc brake, or even just the rotor, it's going to have these design specs. It's going to follow that part throughout its life cycle. So we're going to do, we're going to manufacture a single part and then test it. And so part of that testing is like, did we actually build it according to the way it was specified? And those tolerances, plus or minus a certain amount of distance, are these holes in the right locations? Are they drilled to the right depth? All of that's embedded in the file. And when you talk about the digital twin, it's great to extract the radius of that, say that rotor, but then knowing the roughness factor and what it needs to be manufactured to, my company may or may not be able to manufacture that because we can't hit the tolerances required. Um, that information can be extracted further on in the future. It allows me to do quality assurance, so that not only after I just do manufacture 1 or 10, but after I manufacture 10,000, over time of manufacturing that, are we still hitting those tolerances, or do we have to change our tooling? And so it allows me to be much more intelligent about the way I manufacture things, and about how I go about even like charging to manufacture something. Um, and then when I build it too, like knowing that these parts they have to fit with on top of each other or be bolted to one another. That mating information allows me in the future to even create assembly instructions. And so there's this richness of information that allows us to really fine tune the whole development process of building these parts and these assemblies.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, this could also help with things like preventative maintenance, like help you stay on top of, when the part's breaking down, maybe sooner than it should, and you may not know otherwise. But with this digital twin, you can track that data.
Absolutely. So you could track wear, like as we're starting to leave our area of tolerance, that maybe my tooling needs to be changed. There's this whole other level of the digital twin though. So we were just talking about data.
Hmm.
Um, and that's like hard. Well, I guess it is changing over time, but a lot of that is embedded in the file and it doesn't change. But then we see a lot of real-time data coming in from manufacturing facilities. That's part of the quote unquote digital twin as well, is IoT data associated with my machines. So it could be simple stuff like, am I on or am I off? But it could be temperature and humidity and vibration, and pressure, telling me about what's going on within my manufacturing facility. And if one of those changes, it's going to affect very, very possibly how and what's going on, and allows me, like you were mentioning, right? Preventative maintenance. If we're able to characterize what happens to a piece of machinery as it approaches a failure state, that allows me to take that piece offline prior to it failing at a time that's convenient to me, as opposed to like in the middle of production, which could cost me a bunch of things. Like the machine could break itself, which is horrible, and I'm replacing more than one part, but also it's impacting me and my ability to deliver on my commitments for manufacturing whatever job I'm working on right now.
So is this going to, I don't want to say complicate, but I guess enhance the certain jobs, such as like a mechanic, for instance, or an AC tech, or an HVAC tech rather. If they're in a building that has a digital twin and it has all this data, is it going to, like I said, evolve? This job's going to evolve into more technical than just mechanical.
It already has.
Okay.
Yeah, like these. when you talk about like HVAC techs, like they're doing way more than just installing like hard goods. They need to be technical, and they're troubleshooting systems that are running operating systems. And it's that information coming back that allows them to balance airflow and temperature. And it is complicated. And so having a digitally equipped workforce, super important, a literate workforce. Um, but yeah, all these jobs, like same thing in automotive. Like half the time you bring your car in, it's a software problem, and they're trying to diagnose, all right, what's happening electronically versus what's happening mechanically. And so our whole workforce is really changing for the better, because we're creating way more efficient buildings because of this, because we have these smart systems now, and we're not wasting as much energy. Our carbon footprints are going down. The waste when it comes to manufacturing parts are going down. We're making better use of time instead of just having people on the construction site. Even like in the planning session, that's like a whole other thing, is even before we build, let's say a massive building, being able to intricately plan out who's on site when, with what materials you need in a staging area, what can you have in storage, what's coming. Like everything is real time. It allows us to be a lot more efficient, at the same time a lot more vulnerable to supply chain problems. But yeah, just this massive information allows us to make much better decisions, and be um, more deliberate too on how we're building things and operating things.
Yeah. I have been in the automotive industry for roughly 10 years on every side of it, from tech to behind the desk, writing up work orders, and even a claim adjuster. And when I was in college, when I was going to school for diesel specifically, there was a BMW course. And in the BMW course, I never took it, but from the students who had taken it, they had told me that there are glasses now that BMW makes that will walk you through step by step on how to change out certain components. And so, with that, what kind of like are the digital is the digital twins going to be in every industry, or is it just going to be in, like, because right now it seems to be pretty niche. It's like mainly, from what I know, it's like mainly in construction, and that, from my knowledge, that's about it, like where I can find it. I could be wrong, but do you see it spreading out into many other industries?
Yeah, there's always an adoption curve. And so where people see the return on investment, it really is when your margins are small, and your risk is high. So the bigger the project, the more planning that goes into it. So that's absolutely the case. And so all of the big companies have a digital twin of some sort. So big construction companies like Boeing and Airbus and Ford,
Okay.
they're doing best practices already. It's the medium to small companies. Like, are they using are they using drawings as opposed to a 3D model as their standard to manufacture on? And that's still in, we're migrating more to the 3D. We're migrating more to using this embedded information within the files. We're not there yet, but the whole world is moving to digitalization of some sort. So banking, insurance, the supermarkets, they're all digitizing whatever paperwork they have. And so we're becoming more and more digitally literate. Now, because where I'm sitting right now at TechSoft, we're supplying software to over 600 different companies out there, our partners in engineering specifically. We do see more and more emphasis being put on the 3D model and the data attached to it. So going beyond just the model. It's an interesting thing. That's the BMW glasses.
Mhm.
We're, we've had like this AR, VR technology. It's becoming much more ubiquitous now, with Microsoft investing in the HoloLens and really focusing on the enterprise and industry. Other companies like Magic Leap doing the same thing. So they're kind of a big AR company. So we're seeing a real, almost like a shift from entertainment to industry and enterprise. No killer apps yet. Like my smartphone or my smart tablet is actually an AR device, and we see more people using those to kind of overlay assembly, disassembly instructions. super helpful. Like I've kind of tinkered with my car. I remember you get like the Hayes or the Chilton's manual, and you're like looking at that picture, and you're looking at under the hood, and like registering the two was always tough. I'm like, is this what they want me to remove? But but now with that digital, let's say it's digital twin, really is I can have that digital information on my tablet, or I can have it on my phone, and it just gets me one step closer to being more efficient to troubleshoot things. What we are seeing, and this is absolutely true, is more digital context moving from people's offices down to the shop floor or out on the assembly line. And so at Boeing, you have like a full CAD system sitting beside your assembly line. Same thing is we're just bringing more and more data out there in a number of different ways. It could be on your tablet. So you join a construction company, you're issued a tablet if you're a foreman or somebody that's managing. Um, Microsoft has hard hats. See they partnered with Trimble, I believe, to make kind of like these hard hat HoloLens hybrids that allow you to kind of bring that digital context. Are a ton of people using it yet? No, it's pretty cool. A demo is great at trade shows. We are excited to kind of see where that's going, and there are some great uses, but yeah, a lot more technology in people's hands in one place or in another.
So, do you think we're still in that early adoption phase then for digital twins, or are we nearing the point where we're going to? Because, like VR, for example, and you've said with AR as well, it went from like a very very beginning adoption stage.
Mhm.
I mean, VR has been around for years, but a few years ago, a lot of people, if you were in the know, people were talking
Mhm.
about it. But now you're starting to see this huge increase of people using it. So do you foresee that happening in the near future since we're heading towards this digitalization sooner than ever?
We are continuing to digitalize everything. When it comes to in the area that I work, this is 3D engineering and construction, building large things. Um, if you aren't using the digital twin in one way or another, you're a laggard. Honestly, you're in a late adoption to being a laggard as you look at an innovation adoption phase. Now, that doesn't mean AR and VR. I think we definitely hit a hype bubble with that. We're going to continue to see some applications in that space. But if you're not leveraging the data in one way or another, it doesn't mean that you need IoT data, but if you're not standardizing on a 3D model with additional information as your truth, your one single truth, and applying the disciplines of model-based definition or model-based enterprise, it's kind of like this whole that's the digital twin, and allowing you to have long time archival with complicated objects. Like, you're in trouble. Like, you're not going to be competitive in the near future. When it comes to IoT, some companies are going to benefit from that. Some aren't. It really depends on the use case. It's kind of the digital twin is kind of a fuzzy. Like, what is it? People have heard of this. It's a buzzword, but um, we're also seeing that government compliance is really pushing this forward, specifically in the European Union for building and construction. Adopting a rich file format for documenting 3D file format for documenting what is going to be built, and then allow that to be delivered with the physical asset that is being required through a interoperable format called IFC. And as other big companies see the benefit of that, the cost savings, but it's not being mandated in the US or all of our industrialized nations. But as that happens, you're going to see just more and more tools being built up, and people leveraging the data in unique ways.
Yeah. So a question that just came to my mind as you're talking about, what's going on with digital twins, how they work, and the digitalization of pretty much everything is cybersecurity. Like, does that make you more like if your company is relying on these digital twins for all that data? Are there things that you have to like other protocols you have to do to ensure security from your data to make sure it's not stolen, to make sure digital supply chains aren't being halted or damaged or manipulated in any way.
Yeah, I mean, there are challenges with this. Um, I would argue, and I think it's pretty well established, that if I have data on a server underneath my desk versus down the road in the Facebook data center, Facebook is using best practices. I'm not. And especially now that we've all been working remotely for 2+ years, it's really changed the way that we do business. A lot more people are putting trust in the cloud and feeling comfortable with it. Um, when that isn't possible for regulation issues, people are doing on-prem, but they're still having this data available and being moved throughout a network. Um, with anything, yeah, there's going to be problems, and we see that cybersecurity as we put more and more of our infrastructure, our world's infrastructure, and make it available. Like they are targets, and so yeah, that's. I'm not saying it's not going to be a problem, but I'm pretty sure that these cloud services do a better job of securing my data and backing it up than I do. And there's good reason, to make
Sure.
software as a service. Uh, Connectivity is hard, right? So how do you, in many of the areas that we work, so at like open pit mines or down on the shop floor in a very large facility with thick concrete walls or at a nuclear power plant, how do you get a signal there? And figuring out how there are unique ways of doing that with tech. So um, what is the web progressive web apps is kind of a nice way of doing that, and allowing you to install a web app and kind of have it work in an offline mode. So there's a lot of ways to kind of move these things forward, even in disconnected environments in the field.
Okay. So let's say somebody's interested in learning more about digital twins. Where would you recommend they start as far as getting a basic understanding as to what they are, how that they can maybe get involved in it?
Oh man, that's a good question. I know for Building Smart is kind of a international organization for building and construction. A quick Google. I don't have a particular Wikipedia page. Check us out at techsoft3d.com. There's a whole area there on the digital factory. So that's the next thing is you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. And so we or other companies have a lot of tools that help you jumpstart that software development experience where we have data access and graphics and web technology, and allows you just to figure out how you want to use that data without trying to reverse engineer everything and figure out everything yourself.
Awesome. And Jonathan, where can people find you if they're interested in staying up to date with your work? Because I know one of your goals, and hopefully you'll be able to achieve that goal, is to be in Wired.
That
So,
is, yeah, that's a lifetime goal, right? So LinkedIn is probably the best place, pretty active. That's kind of where we spend a lot of time. So Jonathan Girroir, LinkedIn, maybe in the show notes we can put a link there. Techsoft3d.com is a great place to catch up with what we're doing, and then we also have a very active forum. So that's forum.techsoft3d.com are great places to kind of check out the new stuff that we're doing.
awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much.